All praises to the Most High God, Kingdom of Black Supremacy. All praises to the Most High God, Kingdom of Black Supremacy. All praises due to the Most High God, Kingdom of Black Supremacy. Like I said before, life try to make you break, but that don't mean you have to break. That don't mean you have to subdue or submit to the mundane world. The only thing and the only person that you should be submitting to is God. Submitting to God's will, submitting to God's commands, and just submitting to the spirit and the reverence of God, period. God sends your way, you know, pressure. And through those pressures, make diamonds, you know, because, you're put to a test of your past ways, of your past events, of your past feelings, to see if you're learning or not. If you're understanding God, not just understanding yourself, because sometimes the understanding yourself could just lead you into a hole. But just understand God. It's not really, from what I'm learning, it's not really about understanding yourself. It's about learning God. You know, having the mind of God. You know, having the mind of God and gaining a new perspective of things and leaving the old ones in your own perspectives behind. You know, through those pressures that God gives you through life, through every moment, through events, through people, it makes you a diamond. It makes you a very pressurized, beautiful diamond to shine. And how you will shine is how you can conquer those pressures, how you can succeed and be determined to keep pushing and not give up and to keep pushing, through your pressure that God gives you. He gives you pressure because he wants you to give your full self away to him. He wants to fully give your mind, your body, and your soul through devotion, through reverence, through dedication, through discipline, through your innocence. Finding your innocence within you. Finding that innocent child before you retain it by your parents, by the mundane world, by your peers, by TV, through media. Finding your innocent child to where nothing else matters. You're not really lowering yourself to nobody else's standards because there is no standards. There is no standards for you to really lower yourself because you see no one else but God. You're only focused on God. You're only focused on his ways and his teachings. And just staying loyal to that and honoring that and respecting that. Through this pressure, at time it gets rough. Diamonds are rough. They have rough phases to make them beautiful. To make them shine, to make them be the light in the darkness, for all to see, to all to witness, and see a true devotion of God, to God, and stand in that, not moving for no one, not being thrown off to nothing, staying in the confidence and staying in the reverence of your God. King Nova Black Supremacy. You know, honor what is real, honor what is at hand, you know, and that's being loyal to what you stand for. And what you stand for is God and nothing else. Nothing else should come in between that bond that you and God have, that you and God shares. Nothing should come in between that bond, regardless to what it is. Staying in his path, God's path, and not getting thrown off or getting distracted by nothing else, no one else. Staying true. You know? It's easy sometimes to get distracted. But it's hard to focus. It's hard to focus sometimes and stay on the path of God. Because you have so many distractions. But God tests you. He throws distractions at you. He throws events at you that he knows that in the past you were distracted by. He wants to know, do you still want to be distracted by that? Are you still going to make that choice to be distracted by what I threw at you? What you were once distracted by in the past, but that once threw you off from my path before? Are you going to let it throw you off this time again? You know, he has to test you to make sure you're strong, to make sure you're not weak or have a weak mind and can break. Be strong and keep pushing. Sometimes you have to tell yourself that. You have to ignore the voices that are in your head. Ignore them and push through them and only hear the voice of God. Only hear his voice. You know, as you go through life and you hear those voices, you have to ask, what are those voices? Who are those voices? Where are those voices even coming from? Those are not even my voices. You know, at times it feels like you're going crazy, but you're not. You know, but it's just up to you to stay focused. You know, it's up to you to not try to or not make a choice to distract yourself through the distractions that God are pushing to you. Because sometimes we tend to just try to distract ourselves from the distractions that God gives to us instead of just pushing through all of it and just staying focused. You give yourself a distraction after God then gave you a distraction. Sometimes we don't realize that. You know, no one's perfect. We're all going through this thing called life. We're all going through this journey called life. We're all pushing through it. We all make mistakes. We all fall. But we always get back up. That's our thought. Always getting back up. Always pushing. You know, never giving up. It's moving more out of a state of being emotional and being supreme in your mind, being supreme in your stance. You know, because what I'm learning now, emotions is just distractions, your own form of distractions. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes your own form of distractions can be very deadly. You know, because you're distracting your own self from what God wants you to see. Don't distract yourself for what God needs you to see, what God needs you to notice, what God needs you to pay attention to, what God needs you to learn. He sends things at you. He throws things at you so you can have a understand, so you can have his understanding, not your understanding. His understanding of why, what, and how to prolong it and how to deal with it. Without giving any emotion to it. You know, through slavery, from past slavery, we then became very emotional beings because we feel as though that's what get us, that's what get us along. That's what get us through things. But it's not. It's that moment after you been emotional that you're actually getting through. It's the moment after you have cried and you have been emotional for some hours or some days or some weeks. That time after you've been emotional where you find strength in. Not the moment when you're being emotional. So sometimes we have to push past that emotion and go to the point of after the emotion moment and push past and find strength. And just keep pushing, you know. It's just about giving yourself away to God. You know what I'm saying? Leaving it all to Him, being dependent on God, and not be so much dependent on yourself. Depend yourself, be dependent on God. You know, we be so dependent on ourselves that we forget what God's job is and what He's here for. One of my sister's favorite song is Yolanda Adams, "The Battle's Not Yours," and it speaks some volumes because she's right. We take on battles that we don't need to take on, and it puts us in such an emotional state. We don't even have to pay attention to it. We're lowering our vibration to even pay attention to it, and we don't even have to pay attention to it. We always get caught up of always trying to get the last word or always trying to be right. Fuck being right. Fuck trying to get the last word. It doesn't even matter no more. It does not matter no more. Fuck trying to be right. Fuck trying to get the last word. What would God do? He would sit there in silence and look at you. And that's what we have to do. We have to sit there in silence and look at the person and let them learn on their own like we had to. Nobody was there to tell us, oh, you're doing wrong. Stop doing that. We actually had to go through it over and over again to learn. But the difference between us and them is that we're being the example for them. We didn't have an example. We didn't have, people that was in God's grace and devotion. We only had God. And at times we choose not to listen to God. We choose to do our own path. We do our own way. And it's not really about just yourself. You know what I'm saying? You can love yourself and love the God within yourself, but don't forget it's not just yourself in there. It's God too. And we tend to forget that God's working, so let Him work. Let God handle some of your battles. You don't always have to fight and argue with people that mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? That really means nothing in the real, organic, real world. You don't have to lower yourself to those standards. Regardless of how much you think that you're right, and most times you're right, sometimes people just don't understand you. And they don't even understand what you're talking about. And sometimes people just want to hear their own self argue and own self yell. And you don't have to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes just let them get out what they need to get out so you can move on. We have to stop lowering ourselves to other people's vibration so we can vibrate high. And we can be that shining diamond that God wants us to be. That He's constantly applying pressure on and trying to make perfect, to be imperfect. So be the example of standing firm and holding your tongue. That's something I had to, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning to hold my tongue and not always get the last word, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it, because sometimes you scare people away. You scare people away by arguing and just, being ugly. My mama used to call it being ugly. Because other people are being ugly towards you. Sometimes you have to just turn your cheek and let shit go, as God would say. Let shit go. Everything ain't worth the battle. It takes two to argue, and if only one of you are screaming and yelling, there's no point. Yes, I know through life, you always had to, get your point across and win battles and be tough. But God doesn't want you to be that way. God wants you to be innocent, like an innocent child. Innocent child don't know how to argue. They ain't ever been around that. God just wants you to be pure at heart. And as a female, speaking for females and on females, because I'm a female, females don't really argue. They don't scream when they're not supposed to. I know some do. They're not supposed to be yelling, but that's actually assets of men, having a masculine, But we're supposed to be very timid and shy and submissive. You know what I'm saying? We're not supposed to really be yelling. We're not supposed to be arguing. It's no point. At the end of the day, you win. You win. You can have that. I don't care. You win. You're right. I'm wrong. You can have that. There's no point. God knows your heart. So there's no point of trying to, make anybody else or prove yourself to anybody else. Because God knows your heart. God knows where you stand. God knows what you're trying to do. And as long as God knows, it doesn't matter who else don't know. And it takes a while for us to realize this. You know what I'm saying? Because we're always in different forms looking for validation of trying to be right. But fuck validation. Fuck trying to be right. Fuck people who don't want to be wrong. It doesn't matter to us no more. On my journey of being a Kingdom of Black Supremacist devotee, I have learned a lot. I have learned that, yeah, that's a choice to scream and yell and lower yourself. But you also have the choice to be silent and just be observant, and not let people pull at your energy, and be solid and be firm, and not submit to the mundane world and only submit to God. Submit your will to God. Submit your loyalty to God. Submit your honor to God. Submit your reverence to God. And definitely submit your innocence to God. Just be submissive. Doing what God wants at all times. Regardless of who's around and how they may feel about it. Or how they may feel about your God. Still do it. Still push on. You know, it's about what God wants. Because at the end of the day, God wants the best for us. God wants us to be happy. God wants us to trust Him. You know, I say invoke the God that's within you so you can honor God, so you can see that and not and stop being pulled down by the mundane world. Because if you stand with the enemy, you should fall with the enemy. And being part of the mundane world is standing with the enemy. You know, it's tricks that the mundane world give to us that tricks us back into being involved with it. We have to watch out for those tricks. King Noble teaches us to beware of those tricks, to avoid those tricks, to be silent and be like him, be in his ways, be in his honor, be in his loyalty, be in his vision, be of his mind, be in his mind. He teaches us that, to be calm and be silent and stay out of your own understanding and to gain his, and to stay in the now. You know, stay in the now, stay out the past, and only stay in the now. Love every part of your path. All praises due to my Most High God, Kingdom of Black Supremacy. All praises due to my Most High God, Kingdom of Black Supremacy. All praises due to my Most High God, Kingdom of Black Supremacy. Your path is royalty.